So at the time of recording this video on Thursday, Disney announced that the Carousel of Progress would be permanently closing its current form starting July 6th and will reopen in 2027 with all new scenes in Walt Disney at the beginning of the attraction. And I was actually on a flight when the news broke, and I knew I was going to be here today, so I said, you know what, let's not talk about this on YouTube, let's just do it right here at the Carousel of Progress. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to have a quick little chat about all my thoughts regarding the Carousel of Progress and what this means for the show and just Tomorrowland itself. So I hope you enjoy. Let's get right into it. So quick little history on the Carousel of Progress. The whole idea was all a Walt Disney idea. It first debuted at the 1964 World's Fair before it made it to any Disney park, and my grandfather actually told me in IHOP a couple weeks ago that he experienced it at the 1964 World's Fair in New York. I have no idea why he never told me that, but I learned it a few weeks ago, so very cool to know. But eventually made its way to Disneyland, and then it was moved over to Walt Disney World, where it currently is today, which you were looking at behind me. Very little has changed in the actual Carousel of Progress since 1964. The last time they actually updated it was 33 years ago, where they gave it that new final scene, which people have been saying for years is outdated and they need to redo. But all the other scenes are very similar to what they were at the 64 World's Fair. It begins in 1900, then it moves to 1920s, then it moves to 1940s, and then you have that last finale scene. But what I'm getting at here is that, as you can tell, very nostalgic, very Walt Disney. It's a Walt Disney idea. And to me, just as someone who grew up going on this attraction many times and knowing a lot of the scripts, obviously knowing the song, you know, A Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, it's arguably the anthem of Disney. Like when you think of Walt Disney, that's his anthem right there. But there's so much history and so many historical references in this attraction, and to me it's just so cool to see these early decades of the 1900s in this attraction. That's kind of what I'm sad about this leaving, is that a lot of this was worked on by Walt, and it's just very nostalgic. You know, me and my sister, when we were little, actually, very little, we actually put on a performance of the Carousel of Progress in our living room for our parents, and I don't know if she remembers that, but I remember it, and it was really funny. But this show is just so nostalgic, man, and it never gets old. So in September of last year, Disney announced that they would be adding Walt Disney to the first scene of the attraction. He would basically introduce us to the show, and then the show would get underway. And they never gave us a closing date, but they did say that would be happening. So everyone's first initial thought, mine included, for the last few months were, okay, they're gonna add Walt Disney to the beginning of the attraction where there's currently nothing. You know, I'm very on board with that, and they're probably gonna go in and touch up and upgrade the finale scene because that hasn't been touched in 33 years. So that's almost a given there that that's gonna be upgraded. But fast forward to a couple days ago, Disney officially announced that on July 5th, this current version of the Carousel of Progress will have its last day of operation, permanently closing in this form on July 6th, where every single scene in the attraction will be changed and Walt Disney will be added to the first scene introducing us to the show. So to give you a quick rundown of what this new version of the Carousel of Progress will feature is that you're gonna walk through those doors right there, and you're gonna walk in, sit in the theater, and the curtains will open and Walt Disney will introduce you to the attraction. Then you're gonna spin around to the first scene, which you are seeing right now, and you will be in the 1960s, 1969, where the family will be witnessing the moon landing. Then you're gonna move on to the next scene. It's gonna be Halloween 1985. I'm sure a lot of you watching the video are gonna feel old now, but it's gonna be Halloween 1985, and Sarah, who is the wife in this attraction apparently, is gonna have a big role in that scene, and it's gonna show life in the 1980s and the newest creations and progressions, I guess, of the 80s. Then you will jump to New Year's Eve 1999, where you're going into the 2000s, the new millennium, and the family will be experiencing New Year's Eve, I guess. And one thing that caught my eye about this scene when I was reading into the attraction is that in the 1940s scene, Grandma turns wrestling on the TV. Well, it says in this scene, Grandma is also going to be putting wrestling on the TV, and Disney and ESPN are on a deal with WWE right now. So what I'm thinking is, are we going to have The Rock throwing down the people's elbow and Hulk Hogan just doing his thing on the TV in the Carousel of Progress? Like, that would be the funniest thing ever. Disney, make this happen. And then it'll jump to the last scene where it's going to be the possible future, and from what I hear, they're going to be off planet. So this is going to be like 100 years in the future, hypothetically, who knows? But very curious about that scene, and it's definitely going to be a lot more in date than the current finale scene, which I've been saying Disney is doing themselves a big solid with that, because you know, people have been saying for years that this finale scene needs an update. So I think their goal with this one is that it will stay in date for a while and they won't be getting calls to upgrade it and replace it for quite a long time. But if you do the math here, the original Carousel Progress, that this is the original timeline, it takes place 60 years, around 60 years before it ends, which would have been the 1964 World's Fair, Walt Disney making this attraction happen. And now this new timeline will basically take place 60 years in the future from the 1969 moon landing. I don't think it's exactly 60 years, but around 60 years, if that makes sense to you guys. So I'll give my final thoughts on this update in a minute, but what does this mean for Tomorrowland? Well, just a few months ago, they reopened Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin after its lengthy refurbishment and upgrades, which turned out really good. And now they're moving next door to Carousel Progress. So they're moving through Tomorrowland, upgrading everything, and who knows what's next. Hopefully it's Space Mountain, but we'll see. But yeah, they've been moving through Tomorrowland the last 5 years, and they've just been getting to these big attraction upgrades. Obviously, you had Tron in 2023. But yeah, this whole land is evolving. Honestly, the next thing I really want them to upgrade in Tomorrowland is just this whole area, because outside the few planters, it kind of just feels like a concrete jungle, and I really hope the future isn't just a concrete jungle. Like, you got a couple planters here and there, but nothing that really stands out, if that makes sense to you guys. That's just my take on it. Or, ooh, here's an idea. Maybe upgrade the Speedway, or maybe do a new ride there. Who knows? The sky's the limit here for Disney, honestly. So now I want to go into the argument that a lot of people will be having with this attraction upgrade when they talk about it. And they do it with almost every big re-theme or attraction upgrade also. And that's, what would Walt have wanted? Would Walt have been okay with this? And in my opinion, you know, obviously, as you can see in this attraction, Walt is all for progress. And as time goes on, I think Walt would have wanted to see some major upgrades like this to the attraction. So do I think Walt would have been on board with this? I think he 100% would have. But it's just, I don't think a lot of the fans, and myself included, I don't know if I'm even 100% on board with this. But I'm very interested to see what Disney does with this, though. It's not like Muppet Vision, where I'm just completely upset and think it's a terrible decision that they're closing it. I'm very curious, because if Disney does a good job here, if Imagineering goes in here and does their thing, which I know they will, these are Disney fans working on this. These are people that grew up with the Carousel Progress working on it. I think they are going to go in here and do a good job with it and give it their all in this and put money into it. So yeah, I think Walt would have 100% been on board with this, and I'm very interested to see what they do with this, and I'm kind of excited. I don't know. I mean, the closing, no matter what, regardless, is going to be super sad, but it's still, I'm still curious to see what happens here. But at the same time, this is where I'm torn. I also got to say, losing these scenes and these pieces of Disney history is going to suck. Not being able to go in here and see the 1920s, 1900s, 1940s, that's going to suck. But I, like I said, I'm interested to see what they do with these new decades. But it's just super cool seeing all the history in this attraction, you know. You have Thomas Edison references, Wright Brothers references, and all sorts of other stuff. St. Louis World's Fair, just all sorts of different American history references in this attraction. That's going to be super sad to see. But I think they will move a lot of the references and gags from this attraction over to the new one, like Uncle Orville saying no privacy at all around this place. I bet they'll have him say that somewhere in this new attraction. They'll probably use the same exact clip of him saying that. Like, they're not going to record a new one. But I don't know, because you're not going to have the same voice actors with this attraction either. That's the thing, because most of them have passed away, especially, like, you're not going to have Rex Allen or anything. So hopefully they can get voice actors that sound a lot like the ones in these ones, because the voice acting in this attraction is amazing in my opinion. But my final thoughts on it, I'm very interested and open to seeing what Disney does here. I'm very excited to see the possibilities of what they can do with a new Carousel of Progress in 2026. But at the same time, it's going to be sad to lose this, and I think everybody is a little sad about that. I've gotten so many texts from all different people over the last couple of days about how upset they are about losing this. And don't get me wrong, I'm upset about it too, but I'm excited for what the future holds, not only with the Carousel of Progress, but in the rest of Tomorrowland in the future. So with that'll do it for today's video. If you haven't already, make sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content on the channel. I'm very happy I was able to get over to the Carousel of Progress today and actually record this video from the Carousel of Progress. No other place I would have rather recorded this at than the Carousel of Progress. So with that, from the Carousel of Progress in the Magic Kingdom, have an amazing day. God bless. I'll see y'all next time.